Alright guys, welcome back to Formula 1 news. Confirmation from Lewis Hamilton that a new contract has been agreed and signed with Mercedes that will take his career with the Silver Arrows up until at least 2025. Lots of reaction here, especially from Hamilton himself, expressing his belief the team will get back to winning ways over the next couple of seasons. Questions though as to why the deal doesn't go even longer into the new regulations come 2026. Theories as to whether Hamilton wants to ensure they're making big steps before he commits to the team for an even longer tenure. Very much enjoyed to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. And that's the confirmation official. We saw potentially an embargo leak on this a couple of days ago that implied this deal was basically now done. And it's been confirmed now by Formula 1 and other parties that Hamilton has re-signed until 2025. It's also believed, and actually been confirmed, that George Russell has done the same thing. So both of those drivers will be with the team until, well, through 24, through 25, and then in 2026 with the new regulations. That's when further questions will come into play. Hamilton has been very clear lately that he intends to be in Formula 1 for the long term. He's been asked about this quite a lot, and he said, you know, we're not talking 2 years, we're not talking even 3 years, we're talking like 5 years Hamilton sees himself competing for, and you can't blame him. Still competing at a very high level. Easily top 3 driver on the grid this season, whatever you think about Verstappen and Alonso, and is one of very few drivers on the grid that, given a competitive car, can actually, I think, still take the challenge to Max Verstappen. So he wants to stay around. I'm sure that he doesn't want to retire before Alonso retires as well. I'm sure that he wants Alonso to retire, and then Hamilton will think, all right, maybe a year or two more, and then I'll call it a day as well. He doesn't want to get beaten out by Alonso, I imagine, in that sense. So look, Hamilton wants to stay for the long haul, but it's not necessarily the rest of his career all going to be at Mercedes. I think it depends a lot what happens in the next 2 seasons, but for now he's still committed to the Silver Arrows, and I imagine he will be for the rest of his career. But in part it does depend how much progress they make over the next couple of seasons, because Hamilton has confidence they can, but if they don't with respect to Red Bull or their competitors, then in 2 years Hamilton gives himself the option to potentially seek other opportunities if he would like to, or just call it a day then and there if he doesn't get the 8th title. So this is the official announcement that Mercedes come out with today. Delighted to announce that Hamilton and Russell will continue to lead the driver lineup for the next 2 seasons. They've been paired together since the start of 2022. Some of the reaction here from Hamilton: we dream every day of being the best, and we have dedicated the past decade together to achieving that goal. Being at the top does not happen overnight or over a short period of time. It takes commitment, hard work and dedication, and has been an honour to earn our way into the history books with this incredible team. We have never been hungrier to win. We have learned from every success, but also every setback, and there's been plenty of those over the last couple of years. We continue to chase our dreams, we continue to fight no matter the challenge, and we will win again. And this is kind of the key point that Mercedes have been saying, and Hamilton's been saying that they will get back to the top. Hamilton will win not just more Grand Prix, but ideally for Mercedes, another World Championship title. It's going to be tough over the next couple of years with how Red Bull and Verstappen are looking, but look, Mercedes and Hamilton believe they can do exactly that. I'm grateful to the team who have supported me both on and off the track. Our story is not finished. We are determined to achieve more together, and we won't stop until we do, which is quite the telling final section here for Hamilton, kind of implying that, okay, this might just be a 2-year deal, but he sees his entire future in the sport, whether that be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years to come, who knows, with the Silver Arrows, if they can get back to where they were a couple of years ago, which right now is certainly not the case. Look, they're still second in the Constructors, but they're kind of a mile away from Red Bull, both car perspective and also operationally. But is Hamilton and Russell, in my opinion, the best driver pairing on the grid? It is, as far as I'm concerned, and that's one advantage that Mercedes do have in their pocket, and they will continue that going forward as well. Russell gives a few comments. Toto Wolff gives a few comments on how important Hamilton has been for the team and will continue to be going forwards, and this was the full statement here from Hamilton that we just saw. He also did his own tweet about this and said effectively 2 more years. So then the question is, why only 2 more years, right? If he's super confident in Mercedes, why not sign a deal that takes him going into the next set of regulations? Because I think many people expect, even Hamilton has said this himself recently, that Verstappen is just going to win for the next 3 years. He's going to win this year, next year, and the year after. That seems like overwhelmingly the likely possibility right now. Red Bull is so far ahead. Next year their car's going to be even better. They reckon they've got even way more development to even make with that Red Bull car. Verstappen's driving at the top of his game. it's tough to imagine a driver, stopping him, apart from, maybe a Hamilton, maybe an Alonso if the right machinery emerges, and there's other candidates as well, Leclerc, for example, Norris, Russell, if the machinery is correct, but, Leclerc and Hamilton have both said that for the next 2 seasons, it's going to be really tough to even imagine a world where you can stop Max. So, a lot of us are thinking, well, maybe 2026, that's the chance. If Mercedes hit the ground running, they get the new engine rules right, they design a good car for those, aero regulations, then that's when Mercedes could expect to have maybe a 2014 situation part 2. And if Hamilton still is in peak form then, or is still driving very well, and maybe one of the reasons why is that he doesn't want to fall off Hamilton, you know what I mean? Like, he doesn't want to, I don't think he believes that he will, but if Hamilton was to, regress significantly in his ability over the next couple of years, he doesn't want to, be committed for the long term and have to stick around kind of, tarnishing his legacy in some respects. He wants to be able to step away whenever he likes. So I think 2 years makes sense for both parties, but it is interesting nonetheless that Hamilton is, maybe there's a clause in there that says, if you want to extend into 2026, you can, and I think he probably will, but still, the fact that it's just a 2-year deal has been raising some questions. But I think the key point is really from Hamilton's point of view, would you want to commit necessarily to this if you're not actually 100% sure that things are going to go so well with Mercedes? It's not guaranteed they make massive steps. Yes, they believe that they will. Yes, as I say, they're second in the constructors, but I think a lot of that second in the constructors is down to their drivers as opposed to their car, because on average, Aston has been the second best car this year, and if Stroll wasn't a bit of a donkey, then I think, Aston would be second in the constructors right now. So Mercedes have to understand that, they have to realise that, they know there's a big gap in understanding and performance there to the Red Bull right now, and, the Mercedes is up and down every weekend, as is the Ferrari, as is the McLaren, as is the Aston Martin. The Red Bull is good everywhere. It's the fastest car everywhere they go, and that's something really impressive. Mercedes are confident, though, and clearly Hamilton's confident as well, that they are making progress, they are making steps, they can get back to where they want to be, and even Mike Elliott confirmed in a Mercedes video yesterday that they've got more upgrades to bring, more bits to bring to the car over the course of the next few races, and more optimizations to make. So they still reckon there's a lot of potential in this year's car, and next year, of course, they're going to have an entirely new monocoque, which they wanted to design for this year, but they have no money because the cost gap is now a thing. So, yeah, Mercedes believe they can take steps. It's going to be tough to stop Red Bull, but 2 more years with Hamilton, I think it's good for the sport, and it's certainly good for Mercedes. Even Norris commented on this and said, it's great, it's always a pleasure to race with him. It's cool to race against one of the best drivers in F1 history. Looked up to him when I was a little kid, so happy that he's continuing in the sport for at least 2 more years, and I could well imagine it'll be somewhat longer than that. But it does kind of confirm and round out a relatively boring, silly season, right? Pretty much everything has been as expected. Contracted grid. Now, just because these guys have contracts doesn't necessarily mean the changes won't be made, such as in the case of Perez, and we'll come back to that in a second. The contracts that haven't yet been confirmed, the partner to Williams driver Albon, we don't know that yet. We don't know who's alongside Bottas, and we don't know either of the AlphaTauri drivers. So that's kind of what's left to be signed. You could think, okay, Sargent's going to be here, Zhou's going to be here, but that's far from guaranteed. Both of those drivers potentially on the chopping block as it stands. And also, of course, some comments on Perez, and, even Helmut Marko was asked this question and said, yeah, his, there is a contractual guarantee that Perez has a drive next year, but is there any job guarantee in Formula 1, right? Making it very clear that, especially in the Red Bull camp, there's, no such guarantees that Perez continues if things go against him, if he continues to perform underwhelmingly, shall we say, and if Ricciardo, let's say, comes back from injury and does a great job in the final few races. There's also been talk about Stroll confirmed for next year. Okay, he's got a contract, and Aston Martin say that he will be there with the team, so these rumours that he's going to retire of his own volition and go and play tennis seems, it might be true, but it's not going to happen yet, to our understanding, and they say there's no big gap in performance between the two, but depends, I guess, what you mean by a big gap. If a big gap is 2 seconds a lap rather than 5/10 a lap, then sure, maybe you've got a fair point there. There was also this comment as well that Helmut Marko, man, this guy just pops off on the main stage, doesn't he? So Ralf Schumacher had said that Perez has got to go type thing, and then Helmut Marko responded and said, but hopefully he didn't mean that Mick Schumacher would have to replace him. So just clowning Ralf Schumacher and Mick, I suppose, a little bit, which I thought was, it's just Helmut Marko doing Helmut Marko things, but I thought that was, he's always coming up with good quotes, isn't he? However unfair you might think this could be to Mick Schumacher. He also gave some comments on Liam Lawson saying that he did very well in his debut in Zandvoort, saying I'm happy with what he showed. His lap times in the race were very competitive, and we know that Helmut Marko and Red Bull tend to take some of their most promising junior drivers and like to send them out to Super Formula, which is what Liam Lawson has done and is doing this season. So yeah, that says to me that Lawson is a very good candidate to get one of those AlphaTauri seats next season, and whatever that means for the rest, I think there's still a chance that Ricciardo goes to Red Bull and it's like Tsunoda and Lawson and AlphaTauri. I don't think that's completely a done deal yet, that Perez will for sure stay. It depends on the last several races of the year. Now, the other one, this is interesting, right? Because James Vowles the other day said, well, Logan Sargent, he's good, he's better than I thought he'd be, and we need to give him time to develop. But he's also said just a couple of days ago that Sargent must learn faster than he has done so far. Sargent's been, frankly, bodied by Albon in the standings and, doesn't have any points yet. I think this is his weekend, really. The Williams, if it's good at Zandvoort, it's got to be good at Monza. You know what I mean? Like, Monza is a circuit that should suit the Williams very well. They did great there last year. Nick De Vries got points in the Williams last year at Monza. So, if Logan Sargent can't this year, or just can't even be close to Albon, then I think that is a bit of an issue, right? So I don't think it's at all a done deal that Sargent's in the Williams next year. There's other possibilities. There's, even Alex Palou, for example, in IndyCar. I know that people have talked about him quite a lot. So even Drugovich, maybe. I know that Drugovich is interested in getting a seat. So I think there's some opportunities out there. Even Joe himself, who might be gone from Alfa Romeo. So yeah, I think that James Vowles is kind of putting the pressure on here and saying, look, you've got to improve quickly. You've got to at least, get closer to Alex, out-qualify him a couple of times maybe, get some points would be nice. So that is a potential change to the driver lineups for next season. One of the other big changes as well is on the team principal side, with Matteo Binotto spotted in the paddock again this weekend, which is definitely interesting because Netflix following him around. It seems rather likely right now that he will be going to Alpine as their new team principal in due course. So that is the present rumour on this, and it seems like there's a viable possibility that could well be the case going forward. Just quickly to mention then, before the weekend begins, some rear wings have been spotted in the garages as expected. Most teams, as usual, running the lower downforce spec, as we see with Mercedes. This seems to be the one that Lewis Hamilton used back in Spa to generally pretty decent effect, actually. Didn't work out so well in the race, but all things considered was pretty decent, Hamilton, in some conditions, at least that weekend. Now, Red Bull, again, are running, at least on Verstappen's car for now, pretty much a medium downforce wing. Now, they did this last year, which is pretty crazy that Red Bull believe they can get away with this. And they got away with it last year and they won the race comfortably in the hands of Verstappen when they basically ran medium downforce. The Ferrari should be faster than the Red Bull on the straights here. The Ferrari is quick in a straight line and they will be running a very slim rear wing. And Perez has a pretty similar rear wing to Verstappen actually, but just this kind of cutout at the top here, which I don't think is like a specialist low downforce rear wing. It's just that Red Bull probably don't even need one. Their car is so slippery, they can get away with putting a pretty sizable wing on the car at Monza of all tracks, the Temple of Speed, still have a massive DRS advantage, not even lose that much compared to their rivals in straight line speed, and be quicker in the corners and preserve the tyres better. It's a real ace in the hole that Red Bull have, that they can actually run medium downforce at Monza and still be like pretty much fastest in a straight line. It's kind of outrageous. So that's potentially what to expect for this weekend as well. So very much enjoyed to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I will see you next time.